All right, so we're at the track now. Today is the first points race of the whole season. And today's an interesting day because today's the day that I figure out what the competition is actually like. I mean, I have no idea if I'm going to be the fastest, the slowest, somewhere near the back, somewhere near the front, dead in the middle. I have no idea. Today's the day we figure that out, so I'm a little anxious about that, but we'll see how things go.
Watch out. Nice one, Space Kid. Good start.
Now I'm spinning. Couldn't do anything. Oh, God.
We've got a full course.
They put my wheel on wrong. Yes. Yes. Oh, if Austin Powers did. So, before we get into the footage and seeing how the race went and results and all that stuff, I want to talk a little bit about the format of these races that we're going to be doing throughout the year. Every race day starts with open practice. After about 2 or 3 sessions on track, depending on how busy it is that day, we go into our qualies based on weight class, and then once quali is done, you get into the order that you qualified, and you start the race. Now, the important thing here is that every race is a single file rolling start. And the other important thing to note is that every race is about 6 minutes long. These two facts combined mean that quali is so incredibly important, because with very little time to actually race and make up positions, and also with a rolling start in single file, the difference between first place and last place is massive, and there's not enough time to close that gap. So quali is incredibly important, and knowing this, I was a little bit anxious about how it was going to go today. So let's take a look. Let's see how it went. Here we go into the first quali of the season. Like I said, I was nervous about this, and especially nervous because we only get 3 laps to set a good time, and trying to do that with other drivers on track is also kind of tricky. And you're going to see the first problem I encountered right here. Just coming out of that final turn, you can see I gained a lot of speed on the driver in front of me, and that's going to make things a little bit difficult pretty soon. However, for now, so far so good. There's a little bit of a cushion in front of me of space. I'm not being held up at all. I'm not catching up too quickly. This is a good time to set a lap. Until around here. Now there, I definitely had to lift to make sure that I had, a slow enough speed to not collide with the driver in front of me. And already I'm setting just a little bit of a slower time than I want to. Again, I had to lift there, get a bad run onto the long straight. And you're going to see the second issue in a moment here as well that I had on track, which is, if you don't see it yet, you're going to see it here. Coming out of that turn 1, I'm carrying way more speed than all 3 drivers in front of me. And suddenly, we're going 2 by 2 into turn 2. Incredibly slow, just by nature of not being able to use any of the track width, not being able to take the ideal lines. I end up getting by 2 of these drivers, and now just behind this driver in the Mosport suit. And again, I'm in this position now towards the end of lap 2 going into lap 3 where I need to get by. I'm being held up, I am lifting, I'm losing tons of speed, and as you can see, this ends up being a lot slower than my first lap. I dive to the left here as a desperate effort to carry my speed, but there's nothing I can do there. If we had 4 laps, I would have stayed behind him, just sort of gotten as close as possible and made the move on the next straight, but this is the last lap for Quali, and I'm just still trying to get by to carry my speed, and I just almost make it but can't do it. They pull up to my side, they take the inside, and at this point I know all my laps have just been compromised by, you know, having to be in an open Quali session. And of course that's part of it, right? That's part of driving and qualifying, and that's part of this whole thing. But as you can see here, my first lap was my fastest, and that's never a good sign. That's never what you want to see, especially knowing how much I was held up on that first lap. I didn't get a clean, clear, sort of unhindered lap in, and that made me anxious for what my position was going to be and also what the race was going to look like. But either way, let's hop out of here and get into the race and see if I can do something with it. Here are the results of Quali, and it's not that bad. I ended up qualifying P5 right behind Kaz, who again is with me right in front of me here in P4. And this time he's got a GoPro, as you can see here in front of me. So yeah, qualifying P5, I've definitely got a little bit of work to do, but we're not in the back, and that's what matters. I get the feeling that these front runners are going to just run away with it. That's the impression that I got in open practice. It's the impression I got based on their Quali times. And I think you're going to see right away that that's exactly what happens. Here we're just sort of going through our outlap, waiting for the green flag to be waved. And right as we get to the start here, the race is about to begin. There's the green flag. And here we go. So up front you can already see the gap between P2 and P3 forming, and as soon as I see that I'm like, okay, this is how it's going to be, I understand. I immediately try to go for a move on the inside on Kaz. Unfortunately, we make a tiny little bit of contact there, and I don't quite get it. So he gets it back here. I hit the brakes to avoid getting hit by his cart in return. And now we're starting to let the gap in front of us open up, unfortunately. But nonetheless, we've got a great fight ahead of us here. I'm just trying to get as close as I can. I look to the inside, but I know that there's no chance of me getting it, especially that long into the straight. And so I just stay behind him and look for opportunities, and he defends as well as he can. Here he's taking super defensive lines, keeping the inside guarded, and I'm just trying to take the fastest lines that I can while looking for opportunities. Like this moment here, I thought maybe I could get a little cheeky, but instead it ends up actually sacrificing a ton of my speed going onto the long straight, so not a great move, very impulsive to be honest. But as we get down this straight here, I managed to keep full throttle and catch a lot more speed down here than he does. Here, I know better this time than to try to go for a move there. I think the best thing to do there is just, you know, stay behind, wait for the straight, get in the draft, catch as much speed as I can. I try to look to the inside here, but it's no use. It hasn't worked for me a single time today. So I'm learning that it has to be done somewhere else. Finally, I get to go side by side going into turn 2, which is exactly the place that I want to pass. It's a perfect place to send the cart all the way through, and now I get to defend. Now, unfortunately, there's so much gap in front of me that I don't know if I'm going to be able to make that up. P3 is ahead of me now by seconds upon seconds, but I'm trying to just take the fastest lines. Now that I'm not worrying about Kaz in front of me, I can start to really push and see what happens here. Now here, after a few laps of just sort of sitting in this one position, we get the white flag, and I'm realizing I am inching closer and closer to P3, but there's just too much of a gap in front. There's no way I can do it in the next 30 seconds of this final lap. So it's unfortunate, but the best I can do is just drive my laps, make sure that gap behind, which is sizable enough that I don't have to worry, but make sure that it stays that way and bring it round to the line. There's the checkered flag. That's the end of the race. And P4. I mean, starting in P5, finishing in P4, I was really happy with that result. P1 and P2, if you look at the results here, P1 and P2 were absolutely gone from the second the race started. There was no chance of anyone catching up on them. But yeah, I mean, this makes me feel really optimistic that in future races this year, I'm going to be able to potentially get some higher positions, maybe end up with a P3 at some point, be on the podium. But yeah, that's how this first race went. So, it's not perfect. Obviously, it's not a win, it's not a podium, but it is something I'm really happy with. I think for the first race, especially with as little experience as I have on track, I'm really happy with today. And I think we have some serious potential to chase some better positions. I'm really hoping that I can end up with a podium at some point this year. Maybe if we're lucky, the faster guys will take each other out, or maybe take a day off. I don't know. But either way, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. See ya.